Okay, so good evening, everyone. Thanks for. Do we have our quorum spinner? Just to double check.
We should have 11. Who's there? We will have quorum.
They just left, so they'll be happy with it.
Okay.
Okay, well then, I see no reason why we can just get started.
All right. Also, I brought snacks. I kind of brought nasty ones in the language because I forgot and then went down to the Exit store. There were lots of them. Chips and goldfish and things. No, I actually forgot. Oh, yes, I did.
Wow. Alright. Okay, everyone, we'll go ahead and get started at 7:03. We'll begin by passing around our attendance sheet as usual, and get started with the approval of the agenda. So, are there any amendments to the agenda we can entertain? Yeah. Additional amendments? Amy? Proceed. Ashley? Additional amendments to the agenda? Okay, seeing none, I can entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second by Rue. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All those opposed? None those abstaining? We approve the agenda as agended. I approve the agenda as amended. Okay, there we go. It's not the minutes. And now we'll go ahead and approve the minutes from our previous council meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from November 1st, 2016. Is that November 1st? Or?
Yeah, very good. I can enter. Can we have a second? Second, Ariel. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. Actually, you can't raise your hand. You can't vote as a proxy, but. Okay, let's just start that one more time. Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Sorry. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those opposed? And all those abstaining? 1, 2, 3. Were you a no?
No, it was just Christina and.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay. This will be the last time. One more time. All those in favor of approving the minutes from the previous council meeting? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those opposed? And all those abstaining? 1, 2. With a 7-0-2 vote, the minutes have been approved. There we go. And now, before we do the public comment, I just want to recognize we have a proxy in the room. If you want to introduce yourself or.
Hi, my name is Xander. I'm the Chief of Staff for Facilities Commission under Sandra this year. And I'm here to introduce a person for Let's Speak SC from
Okay. With that being said, now moving to public comments. Our first round of public comment will be audio only. So we'll switch over to that and we'll go around the room. Starting with audio only public comments. Okay, seeing none, we'll switch to audio and visual. Okay, audio and visual public comment. Okay, seeing none, we will close public comment. Now we will move on to our special presentation. We have one special presentation this evening. This is a special presentation on needs of parents and students. So if the special presenters want to come to the front of the room or wherever they're going to present from, they can do that, and we will have 15 minutes to present whenever you're ready.
I'm just gonna introduce.
And if whatever whatever you.
Alright, we know.
Yeah, whenever you're ready. Go ahead.
Yeah, so last year during campaigning, there were like lots of rough days, and one of those three, I ended up at BCAP somehow, and asked to borrow a chair from Sarah and Amanda over there. And I got into this conversation that really, like, that struck me like no other, and I talked about the wellness referendum and about certain things going on campus and learn about some of the issues parenting students. And it was one of those days where I realized that people in our position can really make a difference for other students on this campus. And yeah, so without further ado, I want to introduce Sarah Haas. She's just going to be talking about her story and some of the things we can do as a council and as a campus community to improve the lives of parents and students on this campus.
Hi guys, I'm Sarah. I have a 2-year-old that came to UCLA 2012. I was pregnant at the end of my freshman year. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and my experiences at UCLA. Some are positive, some are negative, but a lot of negative is going to learn and bring together better experiences for future persons. So at the end of my freshman year, I joined a sorority. I'm an only child, so it was I'm really excited because I have sisters. And it was really great while I was there. And then when I told them that I was pregnant, they told me that they weren't able to make reasonable accommodations for me and that I would have to drop down to alumni position. And I was like, okay, I was very hormonal and I was just like, it was just a really crazy time in my life. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. So then I was supposed to live in the house that sophomore year. So I moved to Res Life. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I wasn't really sure. I tried looking at policies for pregnancy, but I wasn't really sure. I was trying myself to it out. And so I moved into the dorm and I talked to my RA and she told me that she wasn't sure. She thought that I should hide my pregnancy, which is wrong because you shouldn't have to hide your pregnancy. So that was another experience that I had. I basically hid my pregnancy from when I was 5 months pregnant to 7 months pregnant. And it was kind of just like a crazy time. I wasn't sure. I thought I was going to lose housing because I was pregnant. It turns out, whenever I went to go talk to housing at the end, they were like, no, that I already had all of her information wrong, which was that was my pregnancy that one sucked. So basically, then I had my daughter during winter quarter that year. I had her in finals week. I took off that quarter because these hills are not fun to be pregnant on. It is not fun at all. And so I took off that winter. I had her during finals week, and then I was so scared because you're 19 years old and you're pregnant and you're going to such a good university. You don't want to miss out. So I literally went back 1 week later. I had a C-section. I still had staples in me, and it was really interesting. Not that fun. But so I was trying to figure out all of my options, how I can balance being a parenting student at campus. I was debating, throwing out ideas maybe I should go to CSUP, which is in Bakersfield, there's a college there. I was trying to figure out how can I still be in school, and I was like, you know what, I think I can still go to UCLA. I just have to figure out where to make this work. So I looked into the housing options on campus for UB. It's $1,600 a month for a 2-bedroom apartment. And I was like, okay, well, it kind of sucks, do that all by yourself. And then I was looking on the childcare costs. So I was looking at the childcare costs for the early care education on campus, and it was $2,200 a month. So you have $2,200 a month for childcare. You have $1,600 for rent. So I was looking at $3,500 at least for just these expenses. I was like, okay, well, this isn't going to happen. And so I figured a little crazily that I was going to commute from Bakersfield. So I did that for almost 2 years. I did that until my senior year. My grades were crappy. They weren't doing as well as I wanted them to do. My schedule was, I had 8 a.m. classes. So I had all my classes back to back. So 8 a.m., 9:30, and 11, and then I was trying to take 2 p.m. So I had that commuting from Bakersfield. We have to do 405 traffic. So I had to leave my house at 5 a.m. on every Tuesday and Thursday. And on top of that, I was trying to balance, going to work. So I was working 24 hours a week. I was trying to literally, and I had my daughter who was 1 week up until now, she's 2 years old, no, almost 3. So I was doing that, just trying to make ends meet so that I couldn't have a better life. And then earlier this year in January, I decided, I was like, okay, I can't doing that well. I'm not making any, as you know, like connections are everything in college. Like you have to, make those connections with professors and go out over and beyond. So I decided that, okay, I can't afford this. I talked to my boyfriend and I was like, can you watch her Monday through Friday? In his class, I do, I'll just come here and every weekend I'll go home. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm taking a 4-hour bus ride home every weekend to go see her. Just because I can't afford the daycare and I can't afford the rent here. It's really expensive. So that kind of leads to me having a few ideas for changes on campus. That would be like things like giving priority enrollment to parenting students. So there's multiple different, not every parenting student has the same, we don't all fit in this cookie cutter thing. So we have parenting students that are married, we have parenting students that are single, they have young kids, they have old kids, they take care of their grandparents, they have all these different things, all these different commitments that they do have. A lot of times they have to leave at like 3:15, so that means they can't count night classes. And so priority enrollment would be a blessing for a lot of our parenting students. And so another thing for the childcare at UCLA, it has right now a 3-year wait list to get it on. So you have to basically, as soon as you pee on that stick, you have to get back on that waiting list because you're still waiting for, like even after. So my daughter, I had her on the wait list, and it's been, I think, almost 18 months now, just in case I need that to use that resource, and I still haven't heard anything back from that. So that's kind of like insane. There's up to, I know we have almost 1,000 parenting students on campus. They have young children, they have older children, some that are pregnant on campus. And that leads me to just a few other things for finances on campus. I was like researching other UCs, and Berkeley actually has, so UCLA gives a $2,000 scholarship for a parenting student. Berkeley also gives like $7,500 scholarship to parenting students as well on their campus. I think that's about it on my little test.
Thank you so much.
Have any questions?
Yeah. So, next to council, any questions?
Thank you for coming and sharing. For your task list, I'm very happy to tell you. We have been working with Vice Chancellor, Vice Chancellor Monroe Gordon for priority enrollment in the Transfer Coalition. We've been talking to him about the care center and utilizing the lab school as a space for parenting students to use it. Currently, it's not being occupied by pastors, and we're trying to have a group of students be trained in care as a whole to be able to make sure that they're able to care for kids and be responsible while parents are doing other activities that they can do in their class after 5, or if they can't do anything after 5 students at all. So we're trying to make sure that happens. And we have the transfer student representative office has are working on a scholarship for parenting students, $1,000 scholarship. So they're going to be $3,000 to $1,000 scholarships. The applications will be open mid-winter for parenting students, for undocumented students, for anything that really falls under the umbrella of the students represented in the URC. So that'll be next as well. I think I have one more, but if you have any questions, please let me know. My name is Didier. But thank you so much again.
If I could make one comment, I'm going to say, echo what Dave said. Thank you so much for sharing your story in this public setting. It's really great of you to get your story out with other people so people know about what's going on about different students on our campus and their experiences. But one thing I want to add to compliment he said was that in the referendum, some of the referenda that were passed last year, specifically the social justice referendum, it was part of it was funds to go to support parenting students on our campus. And we're trying to figure out exactly how those funds are gonna be distributed in a way to parenting teams so that they be effective in supporting it, but that's just something that we're working on, wanting to know that we're trying on. So,
I do work in the students with attendance office right now, so, if you ever do need to connect out, I can definitely.
yeah, thank you so much. Additional questions?
Well, this isn't really a question, but I just want to thank you again for sharing. Right? Then well, just thanks for bringing awareness to this issue because really something about it. So hopefully, with the referendum, with the topics, hopefully we can do whatever is in our capacity to help you and other, I guess, students who
Thank you.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, you said there's around 1,000 students with dependents?
Yes, so we have almost 1,000. A lot of them, we only have, so like the tricky thing is, which I'm sure you guys know, is finding like numbers for population on campus. The only way we have our population numbers is if they fill out FAFSA. So that's just, so the numbers that we have are 886 documented parenting students. A lot of parenting students don't feel like, so say if they don't have direct custody of their children, then they're not going to write, a lot of students don't write down that they have, that they are a parenting student for research and possibly on these different challenges.
Okay.
I just have one quick thing, to add to that list. We also talked about investing in Los Angeles housing outside of Westwood for non-traditional students to be housed there, so their commute isn't as long. And I know a lot of parenting students that are non-traditional students as well, usually for the DRC population, but that's again another resource that we're trying to make sure continues to have.
Okay, I thought.
I also want to say thank you for coming and sharing your story. It was very inspirational. When you were talking about how to just put your schedule together, I was getting stressed out now because I'm trying to put my schedule together, and it was inspiring because you managed to get through it. And if there's any way I can help with the scholarships and for parenting students, I'd love to help. But it seems, yeah. So I also want to just encourage you if we could somehow all work together. All right, sounds good.
Any additional questions?
Yeah, this is more just a question for the council of AAC and Viv in particular. What next steps do we have to take for priority enrollment for these students? Like, how does that get passed?
This will be the last question because we're nearing our 5-minute mark, so.
Obviously, that would kind of transpire with how we also like doing undergraduate education, seeing, the issues being brought to light, obviously have that bigger impact on, the administration's need to kind of make this something that is allocated to our students. And Darren and I actually went to the same elementary school, so we go way, way back in days. So it's very inspiring to have you come here and, something very close to my heart. That's nothing, to say at the least. But definitely on my end, I would bring this up to them and, we'll have further communication on this, but I'll definitely be in touch. So.
To just on that, we should put a little bit, if we want priority enrollment, we should put pressure on administration to make sure that it's a huge issue. If you are linked with any parenting students that want to mobilize any type of force or like write letters, anything like that, that would be much appreciated for priority enrollment.
Yes, there's actually a few grassroots populations on campus right now. We're trying to build up momentum, especially for lactation spaces on campus.
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard of it, Others of Color in Academia. They're pushing to have an environmental for lactation space. A lot of lactation spaces are typically like further south on campus, and we have more of a north campus-based parenting population. So a lot of parenting populations are, up in the north campus.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know what happened there.
Title IX office is looking at accommodations as it relates to ADA and pregnancy. So they have a Ross Cook, who's doing some research there, looking at cases that are kind of emerging and university applications. So you might need to touch base with Kathleen staff.
Okay. Now, actually,
Do we vote to extend?
okay, then we'll have to do a vote because other than say talk about, we want to do a vote. assuming it's okay. Okay, then,
I move to add 5 minutes of questions from council.
okay, second, by Rafi. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All those opposed, and all those abstaining. 1 more minute.
I would just, thank you for being here. I would suggest that this be brought to a system-wide level because I'm sure it's a system-wide problem. And this is the kind of story that President Paul wants to hear. She has numbers on how things are happening in these spots of things, but not specific on what it's actually like to be a parent and student. So if you're interested in willing to share your story in Columbia, a lot of their campuses, they don't have very strong student voices that are leading on these things. So I almost feel like it is our obligation and duty to actually use this.
I know for trying for other parents as well, right? Yeah, I went to a parent and student conference in May, and I actually connected with them, and that's how I found out about the parent grant. And they're looking at doing a research-wide level on these for parents.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Any more questions from the council? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much again. Okay, and that concludes our special presentations. Now we'll move into appointments. We have one appointment for tonight's council meeting, and this is the consent item. So, without further ado, this is for the faculty welfare committee. I'll turn it over to Sabrina.
Yes. So, the faculty welfare committee, basically, their main goal is to confer and advise with all the different administrative agencies on basically all matters involving anything to do with the economic welfare of faculty. So that's level of salaries, salary determination of methodology, and how they determine how much people get, benefits, insurance, retirement, housing, and basically conditions of employment.
Great, and again, like I said, this is a consent item, and our appointment for this position is John Ohio. So, unless there are any objections to the appointment, we'll go ahead. This appointment has been approved by consent. Thank you, council. And now we'll move into our officer and member reports. So starting with myself, first off, I really want to recognize, we had an election this week that was very unprecedented on so many levels, specifically the presidential race. And the result is what it is, but I just want to say thank you so much to the different members of this council for really coming together, whether it be hosting a healing space like the transfer office did, or coming to the cross-check event that we had. I just came from that hosted by Vice Chancellor Jerry Kong. Those of you who could make it to the meeting we had at Murphy Hall on Wednesday morning to try to debrief with administrators and student leaders all in the room together to talk about what we could do, and just the ongoing conversations that are happening. Those of you who've been supporting students in their nonviolent and peaceful protests the past few days, including today, showing different displays on social media. It really means a lot for students to come together on this because so many different communities feel so differently. And I really feel, it's our responsibility as people who are sitting on this table who are dutifully elected to really stand with these different folks who feel happy about the result, who feel, in fear, who feel all these different emotions, and to really listen. And I want to really appreciate all the efforts that have been done. Now to get to my report. First, I want to say last Friday, I had a meeting with the leadership in the academic senate as well as the staff assembly, which is the USAC, I guess, the student government for all the staff at UCLA. I thought it was really cool because these are the constituents at UCLA, our staff, faculty, and students. And to have our leaderships all meet together here, just to exchange ideas and say, what is important to faculty, what's important to staff, and just share what's important to students with different things so that we can really come together and talk about action going forward. So I'm looking forward to that. Additionally, I really want to say the election parties were fantastic. I know Rafi and Rue can touch on that. The parties that they hosted to bring students to view the election results. Thank you so much. Also, last Thursday, I sat on a panel with our Los Angeles City Attorney, Michael Fuhrer, to talk about gun violence and campus safety, along with a few other UCLA administrators, like Administrator Vice Chancellor Michael Beck. That was a great way to showcase about what students are doing, how we've tried to combat the issue of gun violence, and how we continue to be proactive on this and just show that, this is something that we care about. So it's great to be included in that conversation. Additionally, I just had a meeting this afternoon with the leadership at UCLA Radio. I'm in talks to have a permanent fireside chat, so to speak, of going on UCLA Radio starting in winter, like once a week, to have a pre-recorded or have a conversation where every week we can go talk about what we're doing at the council table in our offices, to really share that with UCLA Radio, to have what we're doing at USAC broadcasted to different parts of campus. And lastly, also this afternoon, Veterans Day ceremony. I don't know if any of you attended that over in Wilson Plaza. It was a great event to be at. And we heard remarks from the brother of Archer Ash, who, the Ash Center is named after, so that was great as well. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, so now we move on to the internal vice president.
I have a couple things. Danny kind of mentioned like the results of the election. I don't think were ideal for anyone at this table, below average, and very infuriating and dangerous. So I would kind of like to discuss in council maybe later on in the agenda. But a couple things I think he is doing is next Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, we're going to be doing Palm Police, but talking over more on like Amy's comment at one of the meetings a few weeks ago about kind of the insinuation of it being a drinking game and different like grievances against it. We changed it to cornhole with cops. But it does seem that there may be a strike at UCPD on that Tuesday, so the event may not take place. So stay tuned on that one. And then the USAC Final Study Hall, a lot of you have been really incredible in responding back to the co-program. So we've told you all to be the Friday the 10th, which is what we originally had reserved, but now we're having an event the next day, so we can only go from 7 to 10 on that Friday. So we might change it to the Thursday of week 10, or if possible, like the Sunday of Sunday night, right before finals week, because they were going to have the room set up for the finals anyway, so we wouldn't be changing the table or anything. So we're going to meet with them this coming week and just kind of decide that. So we'll let you all know all the offices that email us back to the co-program, so you have all the details on that when we do. And then, t-shirt design contest. Thank you to everyone who voted at the pre-vote event we had in Grove Plaza. And those like the 12 finalists, and then we'll be kind of like opening up that space for anyone that wants to come and help give their input on the designs. And then last thing is Happy Veterans Day. My sister's in the Air Force, so it's a wonderful day for me. And she's moving to London next month, so lucky her. Getting out of here while she can. But Happy Veterans Day to everyone. As much as issues as there are with the military system and everything, there are a lot of people who put their actual lives on the line, so that's really great too. That's all. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Any questions for the internal vice president? Okay, seeing none, we move on to the external vice president.
I know that the national elections, presidential elections, particularly kind of took the attention for good reason from everything else. And I know that we'll continue to work together on how we can make sure that this campus is moving forward. But I do want to make sure that people give themselves due credit for what was a truly incredible election held, the polling here at UCLA. We don't actually yet have numbers on voter turnout, but from what I saw, this was probably some of the highest voter turnout we've had in so long. When I wrote for Daily Groom, they sent me in 2014 to go count at Beaver Hall, and I counted 6 people in 2 hours. And this year, the line at Beaver was at 1.3 hours, measured 3 hours long to vote. The county was absolutely not ready for what we had done this quarter, and I thank you all for what you did to get us there. In addition, those votes really did matter. We talk about this presidential race, and that's everything. But you look at local level, we passed $1.2 billion that will house 10,000 homeless people. That's probably the greatest thing that we've done to help the homeless population ever in the city and in the state, really. We passed Measure M, which is going to support transportation, public transportation in particular, Metro coming to Westwood by 2024. We're decriminalizing recreational marijuana. We continue the plastic bag ban. The list goes on and on. It was really a great day for LA and for California. Not fast enough, but for those two, and many of these things did come down to the margin of votes that we had here at UCLA. So thank you to all of you who helped to make that happen. I do hope that everyone who was involved in some part, even if it was texting your friends and getting them to vote, give yourself credit because it was a big deal. Lastly, next weekend is the annual UC Student Association Students of Color Conference, which is the largest and oldest UC student conference. It's being held at UC Irvine. Applications and all that have already closed, and there was a very long wait list to get in. But in light of this election and everything, if you or someone close to you really does want to attend, I can look into ways of moving things around so that you're part of that. And I think that it is a very important space for a lot of communities following what happened this week.
Thank you. Any questions for the external vice president? Okay. We'll move on to the academic affairs commissioner.
Three main events coming up. First is actually co-programming with the Transfer Student Representative Office. Dib will actually touch on this a little bit later, but a few key details. Monday, we're actually having a student focus group featuring transfer students and traditional students taking place in 1215 Murphy. There will be an application link going out. We want to kind of have this space to be an intimate setting so we can get a feel for how these students kind of gauge their technology academic environment as well as their academic success here on campus. That'll be taking place Monday, 12:30 to 2:30 and 12:15 Murphy. So if you know someone who really would like to provide input on this, you can direct you with the link and you should be seeing social media event pages up soon. AAC has Refine Your Resume. It's coming Tuesday from 12 to 2 p.m. for Grand Salon. We'll have Career Center counselors there to kind of take a look at any students that come and bring their resume, as well as a networking portion from 1 to 2 p.m. So if you are interested in that or if anyone in your staff is, please let them know. And then for transparency purposes, AAC is doing an academic appointment town hall where all the academic appointments from various committees will be invited to come, as well as the general public, to see what it is they're learning in their appointment meetings, as well as bring about any concerns to the general public as so they wish. That will be 6 p.m. in bunch 3164, and that's next Thursday. And they will be event pages for all of these going up within the next few days. Thank you.
Great. Any questions for the academic affairs commissioner? Okay, move on to student wellness commissioner.
Okay, so SWC has been programming over the past week, and I just want to highlight a couple of things that have been happening. So GCC hosted a space on Forgot Patio last Friday, I think. And basically they had a Blackboard where you could write messages to support sexual assault survivors, just to address the rhetoric that has been used in this election on both sides. BCC has also held a community healing space, yesterday, I believe, that right. And then Active Minds and all of us are currently hosting their semi-form project campaign, which we've done for the past 2 years, I believe, annually. And for those who don't know, the semi-form is used to represent pause that you take, but you keep moving on. If you're struggling with mental illness, just trying to raise awareness and encourage others to take care of their mental health. Next week we have our SWC quarterly oral health fair, where we will be providing free dental screenings to students as well as free oral hygiene products with the UCLA School of Dentistry. That'll be on the Hill on next Wednesday, I believe. We also have a number of bodybuilding workouts on the Hill as well
then we will also be joining the Great American Smokeout, which is sort of to showcase environmental and personal behaviors that are associated with smoking to encourage people to reduce smoking. And then search is part of Silent Disco in Powell Library, which they've done quarterly as well. This is just a continuing tradition. And winter care trainings are coming up, which I would like to encourage all of you to attend if you have not already been care trained. And those dates will be February 2nd, 9th, and 16th. This is something that you would have to attend all 3 sessions of, and the RSVPs are on our Facebook page as well as through Consent Coalition's Facebook page. That's it. Do you have any questions?
Okay, thank you for your report. Now we move on to the Facilities Commission.
I have 3 main updates from Sandra today. One of them is related to the solar umbrellas that have been featured in the Daily Brewing. We finally got approval from Associated Students UCLA, so they are going to be going on to Kirkhoff in the next 2 weeks. So we're receiving from the manufacturer, and hopefully students will be able to use them to fund their USB devices in there. The second is that we just passed the 2nd week of our food waste recovery program from all of the ASUCLA cafeterias on campus, and we recovered over 30 pounds of waste and food. In that 2-week period, we're planning to continue the project all year and hopefully into next year. And with the hope, the help of Chef Shane, who is the executive chef for UCLA restaurants, we're hoping to expand that project to those sandwiches, fruits, and perishable items once we get refrigerator capacity in the community programs office in the Student Activity Center. To be able to give that food to students the day of, as soon as we collect. Thirdly, we're working on with UCLA Libraries Food for Finals Campus Edition on both the YRL patio and just outside of Powell on Thursday at 10th week from 6 to 10 p.m. in those 2 locations. We are working with the Community Programs Office as well to get the food purchased for that event and to advertise it to all of the most food insecure students on campus and really this program to improve. And then finally, we are meeting with Clinton Bench for the 2nd time. He's the head of UCLA Transportation on the sort of the outreach that we've been doing about the CSO, the Community Safety Officers Van Program. And we received over 200 testimonies about people who use that service at night to get to and from their classes, to and from their sororities, fraternities, and from departments. We're hoping to meet with him to actually approve the use of an app to finally get rid of the phone dispatcher that's currently used, and potentially include some expansions to room bus service later in the evening as well. And the final one is that in light of the election, we're hoping that each of our committees, we have 3 student resources, sustainability, and safety, are all going to take on a policy initiative for winter quarter that directly relates to a problem on the campus that we can expand to a UC-wide, potentially nationwide issue. One that comes to mind is faculty emergency preparation. So students can feel secure in knowing that their faculty have training to deal with events like a mass shooting or supposed mass shooting that happened last year.
Thank you. Any questions for the Facility Commission? Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll move on to the General Representative 1.
The General Representative 1 office has been working in conjunction with the Scholarship Resource Center on campus and the Financial Aid Department to create a cross dialogue between the two to connect financial aid with what the Scholarship Resource Center has to offer in terms of external scholarships available for students, connecting their search engine with this financial aid office so that students have access to a broader range of scholarships. Hopefully this will give students of all backgrounds access to more scholarships, but also making middle-income scholarships more accessible, and non-traditional scholarships more accessible to students if you're on campus. So that's an initiative my office has been spearheading, especially in these past couple of weeks. In addition to that, we're working with CAPS right now to see if we can get more counselors onto the Hill in sort of pod spaces where we're increasing more face time with counselors via a group of counselors, so it's not just one demographic being represented on the Hill, in an effort to also, in response to the 2 deaths of our students, or a student and a member of the community, just increasing that on the Hill as well. I was able to attend the Mother Orr's healing space today, which I was really honored that they welcomed me into that space, and hearing those stories was really powerful. This is a real, this election has so many repercussions that we can't even fathom right now, and if there's anything I took away from that experience was we have to be active listeners and not just bystanders. So if you hear anything, any hate in the next couple of days, just make sure you're being an active ally.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? Very good. Now move on to our agenda 2.
Election night watch party went well. We had a turnout of 1,200.
Yeah, continue.
I'm really thankful to SAC and Rootsville for all the work that they did, and also my office of really proud of them. We also met with administrators last week to start a conversation about institutionalizing entrepreneurship on this campus, and they were really receptive towards that idea, and they're setting us up with meetings with the Career Center and with the school business. So thank you.
Very good. Any questions for Ruth? Very good. Thank you. And now we'll move on to our administrative representatives, starting with Rob.
I'm not going to give you notes, so I'm a little distracted. The emergency management group has hired 2 new staff members, and one of the things that they're resurrecting or starting is a campus search program. And in January, they will be launching a training geared for faculty and staff. And then they hope to roll out a program focusing on students. The January program will be Monday afternoons. That is not a student-friendly time, so they're looking at trying to do that winter quarter over a couple of weekends. CERT training stands for Community Emergency Response Team Training. It was developed by the city of LA as a national standard, and it helps you respond to major disasters. It has some connection to active shooter training, but that's a one-off. A few of us from student affairs are going to UC San Diego to attend ALICE training, which is an active shooter training. It's a 2-day training to look at a different kind of model that also offers more behavioral skill training than just an awareness training, to make it a little bit more real and to help people be able to respond in the moment. We're also in early stages of talking with some Student Wellness Commission and other student groups about doing a pop-up art display during Undie Run. If you went up on the hill a couple weeks ago and saw wild animal projections, we'd love to do that with sex-positive bystander intervention messages during Undie Run around different places on campus as people go by, to kind of frame that event in a healthier, more true Bruin value perspective. But we need student groups who might be interested in this kind of crazy, wild concept. So let me know if you at all think this has merit. The obvious student groups with Bruin Consent Coalition, Sexperts, and others, but the more the merrier.
Great. Thank you. Any questions for Rob? Okay, we'll move on to Michael Stock.
So a few thoughts. So one, I'm happy that you started doing some of the positives. Because yeah, I think Tuesday, one word that my friends and I have used a lot was naive. That I was so naive to think it was okay. And you know, I had the opportunity last week. I wasn't at council. I was in Nevada. I was actually campaigning for Hillary, and which is kind of cool. One of the Latino women, first Latino women who got elected, Catherine Cortez Masto. So that another small victory on Tuesday, but it's very interesting. On I guess a few reflections. One that 40+ million people really do endorse this person that all of us at this table, I assume, and most people at this school, and clearly the majority of Californians can't believe is an actual option. And so with that, I think just is a very deep learning for us young people. I was in AP government when Obama ran the first time, and then I got to vote for him as my first president. And then, so we kind of had this optimistic role in politics for us, this kind of millennial generation, and to have it kind of swept out under the rug is a little difficult. And so a couple of things are, one, I think the response is good to voice the opinion. But I also think it's just a good learning, because when I went to Nevada and when I did some phone banking here in LA, there were very few young people. There were very, very few young people who were really involved. They're registered to vote, they're gonna get out and vote, they'll share social media messages, but it is interesting to see that there wasn't much mobilization for the young people regarding getting out to vote. Which I thought was a very interesting thing to notice in this race where I'm sure you've seen the little thing, millennials voted blue for the most part. So just a couple of interesting things. And another just couple highlights of victories from Tuesday. Personally, I don't know where you fall, I'm very scared of guns, and there was some pretty strict gun reform that passed in California. There was major changes to the way our ESL education is done in local communities, and coming from somewhere where we have a very strong ESL program. I thought that's very applicable. I think it's absurd to think the state can come up with an ESL program. And of course, Kamala Harris was elected as our new senator to go represent California, which is like, shouldn't be forgotten as a big milestone as an African American woman representing our state. Pretty cool. And
South Asian, African American South Asian.
South Asian, yes, thank you for the correction. And Tammy Duckworth, a veteran, I don't know if you've seen the way she was attacked in her candidacy for many things. She actually is a combat veteran from the war. She lost both, definitely not fighting both of her legs. And so very cool. Also, and then a little local that I just happen to have a connection to is Michael Tubbs, a 26-year-old Stanford grad that was elected mayor of Stockton, the youngest and first African American mayor for that city. So it is just, I just wanted to share just a few of those victories, despite obviously the overwhelming response on the presidential ticket, but it is just a little bit of light, and that in California we are, I think, moving progressively and in a good direction. And just a reminder that, like I said, I think it is just naive, I don't know what it may be, of the really vast disparities of opinions and fundamental values of what quote unquote America is. And I just have been in a very introspective space, and that's kind of what they reflect.
Thank you. Any questions for Michael?
Oh, and I have a meeting next Thursday with Julie Steina, who is my contact at the Alumni Association. I sent you all an email. I know it's been crazy. But I have a week now, and I'd love to meet with any of the Oregon and all of you. I've got a few ideas on various networking and various solutions or opportunities that I can kind of offer a connection to. Anything else, I'd really love to hear input, even if it's just 3 bullet points on the email if you want to kind of meet up. Anything would be great.
Thank you. And now Patty?
Great, just a few things. So I had the opportunity a few days ago now to meet with some leadership in PRC. And they're trying to coordinate programming for the de-stress week 10 and also the finals week as well, but it's mostly emphasis on week 10. But what I think is even more important is what they're also trying to do, just as important, is collect all the information of all the resources that are happening around campus regarding to de-stress and preparing for finals. And in the meeting, I kind of had a great interaction with Chris, who's one of the staff members that works in that office, as a grad student. And he is really interested in finding out what are your council members doing during de-stress, either 10 week and finals week, and they're trying to compile like a whole week of events. So the one thing that's so difficult about our campus is there's so much being done that it's so hard to find out all the little things, and you kind of have to go searching for that. So taking advantage of this opportunity to have a one-stop, flyer or informational website with all of the different events that are going on. So if you're hosting any events for finals week or the week before finals, please forward that on to me so I can show, and I will copy that and copy you to Chris, who is managing this program, and the other stakeholders in this program. I'm blinking on names. Because I think if they can have this be even more encompassing, it'll just make it more productive events for everyone and be an opportunity to cross marketing. On another note, I did receive a notice from the building management, and I noticed that there are some signs that are hanging from outside windows. So we didn't want to take them down, but if we can't bring those in after the week is over, if you do want us to find, there are spaces that we can hang signage. We can't hang them from outside the buildings, but I can coordinate if you'd like us to hang the signs. We can hang them maybe on the walkway between Axman and Kurgog. We can find some solutions for you guys, but it is difficult getting people for signs outside. So if you do have signs outside your office, if you can bring those in after meeting tonight, that would be great. And I apologize for snoring. I'm under the table. But yeah, and if you want me to research a place to put your signs, and you don't want to just take it out from under the, let me know, and I can try to arrange that. So I brought my brother's service cup today. Send a little love, and he's sleeping right now, but after we want to come say hi, we do love him. Those are all my announcements.
Okay, any non-job related questions? Yeah. Okay, very good. Thank you. Oh, you did? Okay.
I have a question, but I have some announcements.
There's an announcement.
You want to wait till, you want
Yeah.
to wait till announcements, and also just might as well recommendation. If any of you want to add a permanent report, or you don't want.
Really, only if you have weekly things.
Any option, now, just putting that out there for all of you. Okay, well, yeah, we get to announcements, okay. So, now we'll move to fund allocation, beginning with contingency programming, I'll turn it over to Kevin.
Okay, for your organization supply, I'm also working on the office and also the finance committee side as well. She was
We'll do the USAC office.
For the USAC office, it was for the transfer student representative office. And they required $250.19, they requested for the same amount. Black recommended $165. Yes.
Okay. I think we can do that together because. Yeah, because there's no vote on it. So, but thank you for being part of that.
Okay, so potentially it's going for organization tomorrow. The total required amount was $60,520 and 92 cents. The assessment amount was $12,722 and 32 cents. Finance committee recommends passengers $55 and 5 cents.
Okay.
$55.55.
So first, 555.5. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So I can entertain a motion to approve the TSR allocation to contingency.
I move to approve the TSR allocation for $165 contingency.
Second. Sigma Ariel. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All those opposed and all those abstaining. This allocation has been approved. Okay. Now we move on to our general allocation for contingency for all the other remaining student groups. So I can entertain a motion for that.
I move to approve $555.55. Oh, $5,000. $5,555. Okay.
Okay, can we have a second? Second by Rue. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All those opposed, and all those abstaining, this allocation has been approved. Now move to our only remaining allocation. This is for EVP, we're defenders.
There is a application from E3 Ecology, Economy, and Equity, a powership conversion function with UC November 11th, 2013. They not decided to go.
Okay, and is there any objections? The allocation has been approved by consent. Thank you. And that concludes our funding allocations for tonight's meeting. We have no old business, so I'll move right to new business. A discussion on USAC reform brought by our transfer representative. So I'll just turn it over to you.
Okay, so, let me just open this by saying it is so difficult to talk in this room right now. I don't know why, but we need some goddamn representation in any type of form. I don't care what it is at this point, but someone's got to change something because I'm a council member and I don't feel like my council is protecting me. I had to call my boyfriend before and after a Seattle riot to find out that he was not shot. I give zero shit now. Like, I'm laughing, I'm looking at newspapers, I'm being as disruptive as possible. Like, I'm so blessed to be on this campus, like, but goddamn, I'm a gay, brown-looking person, and if I walked out of this blue dot, I don't know what would happen. We need to show the world that we are a campus for everyone in some type of capacity, so that's why this is on. It was gonna be much more PC than this. I'm sorry, everyone, but take it away. Anyone that wants to discuss, let's go.
This is about USAC like reforming
The Senate system.
our Senate system.
Some
Okay,
type
so
of reform in general.
it's a discussion.
It was framed as a Senate system, but I changed it to USAC reform because I think that I didn't have enough information on creating a Senate system or research at all. So this is just an open forum on what people think that we need for representation on campus. In any type of form.
Okay. So, any comments? At least Sabrina?
So Jim and I have talked about this, before. I mean, like, you put USAC reform, like he was saying, because it's not necessarily just a Senate system that's gonna fix anything. It's the idea of creating more representation from different communities on this campus that are just completely underrepresented, or not represented at all, on the council table. And I do have to run, but one idea that, I talked to Jim about before, is not necessarily having 3 gen reps. Instead making those more specific to representing different communities. My first thought was international students, or maybe out-of-state students, whatever it may be. But just something to kind of think about, if not changing to the Senate system, trying to figure out some reform that will hopefully help different communities, but not changing the entire system. But I don't know how it works in the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Sabrina. Amy?
First, if we want to talk about representation on this table, we can look around. There's not representation, there isn't diversity on this table. Secondly, I never again want to experience what I did election result night, especially with folks messaging me, telling me how I should and should not conduct the way I speak. I've worked very hard to have the voice that I have today because I don't know y'all know, but I come from Hamburg, Pennsylvania. Confederate flags on the front lawn. Hunting season, you know how to shoot a buck by the age of 5. Tractor days are a thing. All Trump supporters. I grew up with my family's tires slashed almost every night. Our restaurant robbed 2 to 3 times a month. I had people tell me to go back to China. I had my mom hit by a car. So Never again do I want anyone to tell me how I should not offend and hold back and privately message people because it's so offensive if I outwardly call people out. Because that is an issue institutionally that has happened to communities of color over and over again, where we are told, close the door and tell people how you feel. Don't tell people publicly how you feel because it might offend a few people. Another thing, Rafi, you brought up the great point of how many people have voted, and honestly, I'm thankful for you for getting people out there to vote, and that's why California is 55% blue, and that was something that, honestly, I commend you for. And this next comment is this is just a joke. But I don't care how many people showed up to the viewing party. I really don't. Because we all know what happened. Whether you had a TV or not, the next day or that night, you knew what happened. That is not the point. The point is, if you want to be there for communities of color, like myself, like people that look like me, like my little brother, it's kind of you start to realize that it wasn't just a woman loss. It was the fact that there are folks that identify with the LGBTQ plus community that don't feel safe. The folks that are Muslim that don't feel safe. The folks that are transgender that don't feel safe. Those that identify as disabled don't feel safe. The list goes on. But even for me as East Asian, I don't feel safe. Because I still have a family back in a town full of Trump supporters. So if we want to talk about, just the next few days, be like good listeners to people, whatnot, that's not what we needed. We've been asking for people to listen to us for decades now. That's why we put long Facebook posts. That's why we go out and riot and rally and protest and all that. We know what we've been doing. We've been trying to get our voice heard for years. It's about time, though, that we don't feel like that's done in vain. Because we are so tired. We want people to actually understand why we are so upset. This is not going to be okay. I'm sorry, it's not going to be okay. Until my dad was arrested, and that's why by cops and stuff when I was younger, he was undocumented. My mom and dad were both undocumented, and now they're naturalized, thankfully. But I have a huge, and this is on USAC Live, but I have a huge part of my family that's undocumented. So that's another part of my identity. So it's a matter of getting to understand that some of the frivolous things that bring up, like honestly, I didn't hear anyone talk about how impactful the election was tonight. No one talked about it. Everyone talked about, it's a really bad time and we just need to be there for people. Yeah, but no one went in and talked about, like I was sitting here silently waiting for someone to say what I'm saying right now. I wanted not me, not a person of color to finally just say, things are messed up. Because I've been saying this stuff forever. I wanted someone to finally in their head click and say, you know what, communities of color out there rallying and their allies is because things are messed up. I wanted someone to say that. I didn't want to be the person. I didn't want to look like the quote unquote angry woman of color going off at USAC. Because that's what I've always looked at. I'm looked as this angry woman of color that's so cold and so nasty because she won't talk to you, she won't look at you, she won't say hi to you. Why? Because I don't feel safe. Point blank period. Don't feel safe to say hi. I'm not going to think like I want to say hi.
Thank you. So, to refocus the discussion on USAC reform, because that's what this discussion item was, are there any more points along the idea that did talk about the Senate system and other USAC reform ideas? So I want to continue that discussion if that's something that members of the council want to talk about. Yeah,
thank you so much, Amy, for sharing your perspective on that, because obviously this election has had such a diverse array of impacts on so many different people from, people of color are disproportionately affected by this, but then again, from members of the LGBT community, people with different religious faiths, not even if you're solely Muslim, if you're even Muslim in today's society, you're kind of criminalized. Even if, for example, my environmental health professor today was almost in tears because for years, all my professors have dedicated their lives to things like environmental policy, and all those things are being torn apart in front of their eyes. That the code access pipeline will most likely be confirmed and built regardless of what, Native Americans feel about it, regardless of how many different families will be destroying or water sources will be destroying. My family, for example, I'm going home this weekend to Florida, and I live 15 minutes away from the KKK capital of the state. Like Amy was saying earlier, tractor days were, a weekly thing for us. In my middle school, which is in more of the rural area, 6th and 7th grade, people call me a terrorist. And luckily, going into high school, people, were a little more educated, so I feel like it became less cool to kind of discriminate based on race, but I still felt it at some level there. All my friends back home were white, and it's not just because I'm glad I was never forced to assimilate or anything, but at the same time, I still have this feeling that they still see me differently. I'm honestly scared to go back, but I still have to think about the fact that my sister and my mom really job have to deal with that every day, that berating and those comments, and even after the Orlando shooting and after the multiple shootings that went on over the summer in court, I was talking to my sister and she will literally have nightmares. She can't sleep because every week she has is her getting shot or her being attacked, and she can't even step outside her house. And like we're all so privileged to live in such a blue state like California. That's the one positive thing I've been hearing about this election. But I think a lot of us need to step off that pedestal and kind of realize that not every other state has the same problem. So looking back at this USAC reform, let's look at examples at different schools. For example, Berkeley has set for a Senate system where each Senate member would kind of have their office represent the communities that they would want, whether it's sustainability, whether it's LGBT community, whether it's undocumented folks that don't have a voice, and it's easy to just say, oh, we'll have 3 general representatives and transfer representative, and they'll do all that work, and everyone else's commissioners are big red. And that's just simply not enough. And even if we kind of delegate one of those offices to international students or out-of-state students, it's never going to be enough because how society works is dynamic, and these different communities are constantly going to have different needs. So how are we going to cater to those without having a blanket? We're generally going to represent you, but there's a lot of flexibility, but that also throws us off the right direction of like where should we be going with our efforts and our resources to kind of take care of it. And if I didn't run an independent campaign, we wouldn't have a Muslim perspective on this council table at all. Let alone, there's very few that are there to like speak for different communities that we kind of hope to represent for this council table, but there's no way we can represent all of them within the 14 member council that we have. So it's our duty to be in the opening, listening here, and as I said, we have to be active listeners. We can't just be complacent. We can't just look at this as a struggle that only we face. As we all have like different identities that are affected by the election, we kind of have to, hold on to the few that we hold the closest, and not think about the 50 different things wrong with how it kind of turned out for everything. That's going to take a toll on all of our mental health, and that's what one of my professors kind of, advised us to do, to kind of take care of ourselves, but we also have to see how we as students can be that voice for the future. Like Michael said before, millennials out of any other race, and we mostly voted for Hillary, I'm guessing, but how can we kind of make our school more inclusive to those different perspectives, make students feel safe on this campus? There's different, black students, for example, don't even feel comfortable going to an event like cornhole with cups, I guess, because that's normalizing a lot of the pressure they feel from different authority figures. And the way to start those conversations, it's hard to just make yourself that comfortable that fast. We have to reach out constantly, and we have to show them that we understand how it feels to be an ally. We know we need to make sacrifices. There's certain privileges that we have that we need to kind of put aside and share that.
Thank you. Additional?
Sure, I think this is a really cool point, that this is a reform in general, because it's something obviously we've been talking about a lot, like the addition of the transfer student that happened a few years ago. I mean, I think that you've done great work, making great additions, but I remember when I heard it, it was like, where does it stop, right? You know, it's this interesting concept of like transfers are X percent, so we just look at every population and demographics and go to the threshold, that is that. But then again, is that representation? Is representation what is the goal here? Because it doesn't sound like representation necessarily as much as the voice, the advocacy, and so that's why I say is representing the right goal in that the functionality needs to be there as well. Because right now, I always hear this, and it's this constant thing of USAC doesn't represent, what does that mean? You know, I really challenge everyone, I think about too, like, what are the privileges that U14 students have that others don't? And what is it that is appealing or necessary to be in your position that is lacked? And to me, that's kind of a fundamental question, is like, what is that? Is it access to administration? Is it getting a response from them? Is it getting a meeting set up? The 14 of you are not all power, I think you know that. And you don't represent all 28,000 students, and you don't know that. So it's a very interesting concept. Is the Senate is going all in and saying, we represent this, and everyone gets an equal vote, and we get to discuss things, and every voice is heard. But I would also think that there is this underlying aspect that can be done quicker of, you know, outreach and really true allyship of thinking critically about what you all have by being here, and how that can be shared, if even the position itself is not, because it's going to be hard. It took a long time to get one extra seat. So if you're going to, and to get Senate, it's just going to open so many doors. So if you want to go down that route, it's a fine route, and you'll have 25, 30, 40, I don't know what other systems look like. But I think in the interim, it is an interesting concept of what do you have that other students don't, that makes sitting here so important. And so that's why I didn't want to take away the representation, just like in this moment, these 14 seats, what do they represent? And how can that be shared? And how can you use that to make others feel that they are either on the same playing field as you, or if nothing else, have truly believe you are student leaders representing their best interests.
Okay, that's our office.
It sounds like there's multiple conversations, but I just want to say one thing about the election. I have a professor who was born in 1934. He's been teaching at UCLA since 1965, which is more than 50 years, and he studies elections. And they don't know much about this election. They don't know what happened. But there is one thing that they do know, based on exit polls. And he showed us, looking at the exit polls, what was correlated with how people voted. And what people guessed was most correlated was how the economy is doing. Right? Those who think the economy is doing worse and the state of our nation is bad will vote for Trump. And then they look at other factors such as racial resentment. And they actually found that your view of how the economy is doing had very little to do with who you voted for. And racial resentment had, by and large, everything to do with who you voted for, more than they've ever seen before. In fact, for the first time of any election, they found that white group identity was a factor that correlated with how you voted, which people had never expressed. And so I felt like I made mistakes and done things that are wrong and not made my best effort to be active in doing things, but it's never been until today and yesterday that I felt ashamed to be a white man who was voted. 2/3 of this country of white men voted for Donald Trump, which blows my mind that is a fact. And I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to feel, and I don't know what more I could have done, but I feel ashamed and I feel naive and I feel confused as to how this could be. And I feel ashamed that I ever believed that it was better than it is. Because it's not. And every time I've ever thought that someone is exaggerating or that this is not as real as it is, or actually worse than it's made to sound, not only in America, but on our campus, I don't even know where to go from that. And I feel bad that is not at the top of my platforms of things I need to do. I don't know how I would do that, but I don't know what the question is. I don't even know where to go.
Thank you. Zoe?
Just moving back a little bit. First, I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you for everyone who shared their experience and their reaction. For me, I've never felt the inadequacy of my own position on USAC so much than I have in these past couple of days. Being introspective, trying to figure out how I can represent these student voices. We don't know what this means for so many students on our campus. And to take the term general representative and like expect one person to represent the voice of so many communities, it's not possible. It's just not. And I really welcome the discussion of reforming the system because I can be a voice, I can be an ally, but how can I represent the interests of so many students on this campus that, like, this is just history repeating itself for them? And I'll try. I will. That's what I was elected to do. And I will absolutely listen and be someone who makes sure that their voice is being amplified and not my own voice. Because I can never speak for these students who this is a reality on their day-to-day basis. I felt sad as a woman in this country. I've never had my womanhood questioned so much as I felt in these past couple days, feeling like I have to justify myself to my male friends for saying things like the future is female, or saying things like, you know, I want to be a woman in politics. I've never felt like I had to be so defensive before. And I'll always fight for that. I'll always fight for the right to be able to say that I am a woman in politics. But I just think we as a council have to make sure we're taking a second to be introspective and realizing that this isn't just a week of, you know, being sad and mourning and, you know, protesting, rioting, and like protesting and organizing on this campus. This is just the beginning, and we need to make sure that we're doing the best we can.
Additional, is that good?
Just like some points. Yes, I agree. We do not represent the population of UCLA. We serve the population of UCLA. Almost every senator she said we don't know what this means. Do you know what this means? LGBTQ, undocumented, brown people are being discriminated against, beaten streets, killed, and that's the reality. So, going back to what was said with the statement, USAC does not represent me. Just being an openly queer male, I'm the only one here. And I'm barely active in queer lines. USAC does not represent that facet of this community. I'm a South Asian male in this council. I am not active in this. I dispute any of the words that support South Asian empowerment on this campus. That's what it means when USAC doesn't represent me. I'm not actively going out in these communities and saying, hi, I'm a part of this community, I'm this representative, I'm here to serve you. Number one, that's taking up space. Number two, how am I supposed to do that? we need more representation, more people. There's no way that we can ask that question without knowing the answer already. This school has been around for what, almost 100 years. Like, it's not a question of why is USAC. It's just a statement. It's USAC just doesn't represent me. Like, we have so many groups of people here, like represented here, but like, are they really representing anyone? Are they really serving anyone? Does anyone feel safe? Like, we're having this conversation for a reason. Like, USAC does not represent me. Like, point blank. I don't care how many offices it takes to have. I don't care how many transfer reps we need to have, parenting, commuting, undocumented. But like, there needs to be some way. How is someone that's undocumented supposed to come up to me and say, "You're my transfer rep. Where am I supposed to go?" And me not know what I do, not know. But like, thankfully, I researched this position highly during summer and knew that Ideas was the place to go. They were opening a safe space for legal assistance. But if we didn't have a student on this table that was undocumented to know exactly what's happening, I understand that we need to share those ideas and the access that we have, but this council is exactly what, like, microcosms, everyone. Like, this is it. Like, this council is defining what is happening all around the world. These are not just small isolated incidents. These are not just, oh, let's vote for BU. Oh, let's vote for Waves of Change. This is what is happening on this campus. Not like, exactly what we saw in the election is exactly what we're going to continue to see until we get some representation, until we get some offices open. It doesn't have to be, let's open up 50 offices tomorrow. Let's open up 75 offices the next week. Like, it has to be some amount of steps that we can take to make sure and ensure that when someone steps on in this place, they have the same amount of access that we all have, in the same amount of representative spaces that we all have. We need to share that access, but we need to also create representative position to make sure that people know that that access is being represented in the highest way possible. That's what that means when USAC doesn't represent me. USAC didn't represent me last year. USAC didn't represent me during BU campaigns. I was tokenized the whole time. That's why I had to leave. There's a reason why people do things. There's a reason why people get isolated. There's a reason why people speak up and they're not being heard. I'm constantly speaking up. I'm constantly trying to be heard, trying to vie for that, oh yes. Like, I was in a meeting with administration a couple of days ago. I was one of 3 people of color in that room, and the person that was heading that meeting did not ask many. I mean, maybe he did, but they didn't show up. And I mean, I couldn't get out of bed either, but I was like, you know what? I need to go. Like, who else is going to be there? This meeting's a formality anyways, but like, hey, I need to tell people like what's happening. So like, let's go. I went, they discussed an email of communities that needs to be on an email. And that email gets deleted all the time. I barely read them now. Like, I mean, come on. Like, we don't need an email. We need some freaking action. Like, I talked to Blanchese about a safe space outside because many are inside right now. I'm sorry I didn't wait for announcements, but there's going to be one hopefully by Tuesday in Meyerhoff Park, WT and Active Minds hopefully there, and CAPS counselors available. But there needs to be those steps. There needs to be that representation. When USAC isn't representing us, these are the things we talk about. We talk about freaking emails. Oh my God, how many emails do I have in my inbox right now that I can just like delete right now? Like, I don't need to hear about the communities that are being oppressed right now. I know the communities that are being oppressed right now. Like, God damn, we need some change. Like, we need some more offices. We need some more representation. If that means sharing this, we can share it. Like, I understand what you're saying. Like, share what knowledge we have and be able to do that. But there needs to be some amount of representation. Like, we need to represent people. Like, yeah. So Berkeley Senate system is a great idea. I'll look into that. I was talking to the UC Berkeley president recently about this before all this happened. So that got me thinking. I have them here making sure that organizations know and go into those organizations and understand what is it that they need and what type of representation do they want to see. And I highly agree with that. I mean, how are we supposed to have this conversation without knowing? But we are still moving forward again with this.
Thank you. Anyone who hasn't spoken yet would like to speak? Zach?
Looking at everything, Rafi, I definitely aligned sort of initially when the election results were announced. And how shocking and how much of a bubble we're in here. And as we're talking about restructuring USAC, I think it's important to think about how USAC came to be 52 years ago during the Civil Rights Movement. After the the Freedom Rides in the South. That's what did it. It's the Freedom Rides in the South during the 60s. It was the bus that left UCLA that went to the South with incarcerations, beatings of black and white students sitting next to each other on a fucking bus that took them to get out into the community and then come back and create the USAC structure that we have today. That's why the commissions exist. That's why things like cultural affairs and CSC exist, is because we went out into the community to do this. And as I was thinking about this and the structure, and after the election results, having my father, who lives in Texas, text me how great it is that Trump's president, and not talking to him now for 4 days and that, we have to get out there. Whether that be joining the students out here that are protesting today. I'm actually, my backpack, I'm going to Oakland tonight. And I'm going to the protesting riots with my uncle, who's a gay male that helped raise me. I'm going there this week because I need exposure. I need to learn what's going on. I need to experience this because this is a bubble. There's a bubble here. And we need to experience it, and we need to ask questions, and we need to learn, and we need to engage. And I really hope we're all serious about restructuring, because it was the civil rights movement, it was the freedom rides, it was coming back and then having them come back a couple of years ago and have that voice where, who was it? Helen Singleton talked about the experience of living that and creating the structure. This is the time to do it, because that was the time to do it. So if we can acknowledge this and we can do it, I really feel like now's the time. So I really hope we're serious about this, because ever since the first day I've come in here, I've acknowledged that I can never represent students, and that I'm always here to serve students, especially coming from CSC, where so many of the people that we work with come from minority backgrounds. I have to be aware of my white, male, heterosexual privilege every single day. And I need to learn about the areas in which I need to become exposed to. And I hope that all of us can identify, even with the lack of privilege that we have in some areas, those privileges we have elsewhere. How can we leverage those and use those in a way to create a new structure, a whole complete structure? So I was really excited to be talking about this reform and trying to make something of what's happened in the last couple of days. And I think this is going to have to go all the way to CRC, obviously restructured here. And I really hope we're serious about this. And we got to look at our history. For those that don't know the USAC history, how this entity came to be, we've got to learn and see where it came from.
Thank you. I think that's actually.
I would just like to kind of bring forth to the table and thank everyone for sharing their perspectives. It's obviously we see here that everyone does come from a different background, and we can all talk about like the election and how it affects us, and it's definitely going to be a continuing conversation, and not just that, but being active participant in whatever is going on, and kind of putting yourself out there if you don't identify with a certain community, but learning about how it exactly affects them. A lot of us have said that, we may not be able to represent or serve or be the voice for a lot of people, but actually taking steps, I think, is something that we can do at this moment. And a lot of people even here at the council table are creating, who may not have, felt like they could speak up, or, are kind of just very frustrated, don't know how. So I think a lot of the emotions that are coming out are very, well deserved, and they're right, and we shouldn't, kind of marginalize them for speaking out about the way they feel. I would never want, someone on this council table to kind of pull their feelings back, because that's what we were elected to do. We were elected, even if we're 14 people, like we need to listen to the people not only on this table, but on this campus, and that kind of, upsets me, not just on this table, but the grander scheme of things. If we're looking at, how different people are affected, it genuinely hurts seeing, a woman not get elected for a majority of reasons, not just because of her gender. And that, is something I wish that, we could kind of work towards in the future, and that's going to take a lot of time. I know I may not recognize a lot of the issues that go on with the various communities, but come from Dayton, California, all my high school friends are Trump supporters, it's the only Indian there, like, I definitely, half my timeline is Trump, half my timeline is UCLA people, I get it, we're in a bubble. And the first thing that I think of when I go back home is, you know, this is very different from where I'm like, once I graduate this year, who knows where I'll be. It's definitely a changing world, it's a changing process, and this scares me. And if we're thinking about how we can, you know, kind of increase representation, I definitely don't think we have enough representation here at a council table that we need, especially with, you know, with everything that's going on. And it's not just with this election, and it sucks that this had to be the triggering point for us to realize that. But I'm glad that we are taking steps and that this was, you know, something on the discussion table. Their Senate systems do work, like Berkeley, a lot of my friends actually serve on the Senate system, and I'm jealous that they get to kind of come together with a room of 40 people from different backgrounds, not just 13 other people. So I'm looking forward and excited about whatever it may be reforming USAC to a Senate system, but I'm here to help, and if anyone else like would want to talk, like it doesn't just have to be at USAC. I'm good with that out there.
Thank you. Additional comments?
I just, Christina just gave me one. For UCSB, they have a commissioner senate in USAC, like a USAC type of office thing. So if anyone has friends in UCSB government, that'd be awesome to connect me. I know a couple of people. I don't know a majority of the council at all, but that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, sure. I can make that one too.
But if anyone knows, that would be great to start on. If because the most beneficial thing about this should be that we keep the commissioners intact. So every commissioner will need to think about it. I think me and Christina had some context into it, but this is just me spitting out words. So don't just take it for what it is. Both of us were just like talking, and we were looking at the commissioners that have their offices with a different type of structure than the rest of us that have not elected positions, but not commissioners like cultural affairs, CFC, and SWC. Those offices will have to stay the same. The way that this system needs to work is those offices need to stay the same so the rest of representation, like the rest of USAC, continually can move forward in the ways that we can. Because if we destroy those commissioners, there's no way that we can rebuild that each year, or even, we can't rebuild that each year without the same structure that's in place. So we need to keep those intact. The offices that we were talking about, we were just talking about this, we would move offices up, like AAC would be an executive position. So it would be kind of things like that. We would have to restructure and move things around to make sure that things stay the same at some points, but move up, move down, see where we can get those communities out and see where we can get the representation out in a perfect fashion. So we have to look at the different types of things that each commission does. So like the different commissions other than those three, and CDC. But other than those four, we need to look at what AAC does and what we can do to bump it up and make sure that it's not bumped up in a way that's for no reason, that there's backing for it, because there are some moments, there is a reason why it should be an executive position, because we're here for academics overall. But, and look at the facilities commission and see what we can deconstruct and see what we can do to see how we can form it. But that's kind of what we want to move towards. What I want to move this conversation towards is continuing the legacy of the commissions and keeping that as we move and restructure the offices that aren't part of that. Because those were created for a specific reason, as Zach said. Those need to stay the way and the structure that they are. And that, I forgot to say that earlier.
I think, you kind of mentioned it later on, but just taking out the different tasks, because obviously we brought my office specifically to speak to that, because it's just a lot of different portions. So I don't know how you could break that down in terms of like, if it's what, so it's just very hard. I think that's gonna be like a discussion of like having exec or whatever, the different commissions that we represent. Kind of hard to spread those duties across senators, if that's what we're looking at long term, so those don't like do need to stay. But as far as, I think we were talking about gen reps and like TSR, like if that's increasing representation, like everyone gets that term, that name. But there are some positions that usually just stay, I feel like, the way they are, just because of the heaviness of that day.
Okay, additional comments, Ruth?
I really resonated with what you said, Zach. And I just want to read something out loud from, the USAC Creek Riders resolution from last year, or the year before actually. And it was, whereas under the scope of the UCLA community loan, the ripple effects of their actions continue to be felt and seen through numerous community outreach and retention programs. The integration of the previously all-white student apartment complexes and the introduction of evidence-based studies courses on campus. And whereas the actions of the Freedom Riders served as a stimulus for institutional changes in the Undergraduate Students Association Council, including the creation and the implementation of the commissioners and the general representative. That's just basic, but also I'm like really, really glad that we're having this discussion in general and people get a chance to voice their feelings. Something I'd like to say is that and this is kind of what Dave just talked about, there are a lot of perks to the system in the sense where like Fruity Bash I don't know if Fruity Bash would be able to be done as well as it's done at UCLA if it was an all Senate system. And so keeping intact the commissioners while also maybe increasing the number of general representatives or creating senators, whatever that looks like, I think that the perks and the streamlined way that USAC works, we shouldn't lose what we have special about having just working division. But I think there's also ways to work around that.
Very good, Rafi.
I'm glad that the idea of USAC reform is being brought up, and I think there are so many good points. I also think it is a very long and difficult and extremely controversial process that is going to involve a lot of in-group fighting on our campus. And I want to have this conversation because perhaps it's what needs to happen. And in some cases I do agree. And there are certain places where I know friends at Santa Barbara who say that nothing gets done. And if representation means that we don't have events to serve students so they're actually feeling represented, well, that's something we need to consider. And I definitely want to keep talking about this. What I don't want is conversations about this and arguments that might start from this, maybe not necessarily on this council, but if this goes out to the school, to take away from us working towards this on an external level, on Zach going up to Oakland tonight, right? How can we help those things right now? You know, if students want to go to DC and protest, I'll pay for that. Let's do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want fighting over something else to end up lead to fighting on something that many students all want to go do. And I hope that we keep that in mind as we're talking about changes to the system, which is an in-group student system.
Okay, Yeah,
I think one thing that definitely mentioned that's been reiterated a lot, especially within our positions as general representatives, we can't ever hope to represent the entire student body. Even if I say I'm Muslim, straight male, I'm not representing all Muslims or straight males on the campus. I'd rather, like as I've been saying, I'm serving them. You know what Michael posed earlier is the question is what kind of differentiates us from other students on this campus, and it's the fact that we have the connections to administrators. It's the fact that we, within our positions, feel like we have a voice that is heard more frequently than other students. So it's not our ability to represent other students that is supposed to be a strong suit, but rather it's our ability to hand over the megaphone to the students who lack a voice on campus, who have been silenced by institutions, who have been systemically oppressed by the very kind of education system that they're trying to benefit from. So how can we, as servants of our communities, be able to step off of our own pedestals and be able to allocate that power to other students who feel like they lack it? I think the strongest trait of a good leader is being able to be humble and being able to kind of get a gist of what your constituents kind of need and what they feel. And the best way to do that is not only to listen, but also to give them a voice, because we can't experience all the things that other people experience. regardless of our own struggles. I can never hope to, know what it feels to be a doctor, even though at one point I wasn't a doctor. I didn't actually become a citizen until this year, but before that, I had for a while, so that gave me at least enough rights to get a job or go to college. And back where I'm from, that wouldn't have been possible. And luckily it was earlier in my life that was, but now it's my time to kind of give that voice, give that power to people who don't really have it. And one thing I think we fail to recognize is that our offices, our positions aren't just us. We all have offices with, hopefully dozens of students. If you do a survey of like who's involved in USAC, it's hundreds of kids or hundreds of students on this campus. It's not just the 14 of us. So it's not up to one of us to represent everyone. Rather, it's to be inclusive in even our recruiting process for our offices. Who do we hope to serve, and who do we hope to give those opportunities to that we have in terms of engaging with other students, in terms of engaging with administration. So even within my office, I think it is weird because even people that applied, as a majority of students of color who felt like other offices might not be able to feel the same struggles as they did. It was a lot of international students, actually like 15 or 16 people in my office are international students. I'm not international. I can't feel the same struggles as they do, but they felt like they could confide in me to kind of be that voice for them or allow them the same opportunities that I have to kind of, at least voice that struggle. So, sorry, I've been waiting to speak for a while, so I wrote down 3 points. So I think what I'd like to challenge everyone here to do, including myself, is to look at perspectives that are different. For example, a student parent that came to speak earlier today, none of us are parents. How can we ever feel that same struggle without even hearing that perspective? So, that was something that I'm glad was shared today, because that's not something I think about on a daily basis, because it doesn't affect me, to be honest. But, we can't let the fact that we are so privileged in our positions blind us from all the different struggles that communities are facing on this campus. And that's, having such a blanket term as the general representative, people don't even know that we're the ones they should be coming to, because it's such, it's such a flexible position. So I think what other science systems do is they represent students based on I guess the department in a lot of cases that they study in. So South Campus, I know, feels underrepresented, and that's one reason they feel really straight away from campus politics, because they're here, study chemistry, study engineering, get a job, and leave. But in terms of social mobility, that really deprives them of a lot of powers that we kind of hold as an institution. So one thing we actually talked about in our office meeting right before this, but what my special project committee would be doing aside from mental health and campus climate issues is how can we give students more institutional power? Because aside from programming, we also are on our advocacy. And advocacy is not only advocacy at a higher level, but it's also raising awareness of different issues that face students right now. So I think not only would it be a challenge for us to look past our own biases, our own identities, to kind of understand how we can be allies for different communities, but to also look at how different communities are disadvantaged for different reasons. And the fact that we have such a strong commission system right now, it's good because what I've seen within my own office, there's no institutional memory that we get. I can't take different platforms, well, I can, but we don't look at different platforms from old, general representatives, sorry, Danny, but and take those into our own offices because one, we simply don't have the resources, and two, we all run our own platforms. But the thing about commissions is they have certain responsibilities and certain duties that, as each year passes by, they gain that prestige and they gain that I guess awareness that students can come back to every year and kind of rely on. And that's one reason it can't be removed because it's such a strong tradition, especially here at UCLA and especially looking at the history. You can't just erase all those things at once and hope to have any sort of direction going into the future. future. So how can we, one, poise these general representative positions into something that's has more direction, has more of an institution that we can follow from year to year, and without losing the same kind of memory, without losing the same kind of power that we have to advocate for students and give them the voice that we kind of have as student leaders.
Are there any last?
Yeah, I just want to make a small comment. I think everyone had great points. Just one thing to think about. Like I think the idea of increasing representation at C is great, but something to think about is some of our offices are already lacking resources in terms of funding, space. So if we want to increase positions and stuff like that, that's also something we have to think about, which is while it's such a on an ideological level, it's on a smaller scale, it's very low, but it's a big problem at the same time. If you don't have the resources to allocate to these senators or whatever they would be called, are they going to be effective?
Okay, I'm gonna have Div, if you want to comment, and I think we should start to wrap things up.
Okay,
So, would be good as well.
Yeah, I have all these things down, which is great. I don't know that exact space, money, stipends. A lot of some of the systems don't have stipends. And also we need to relook at maybe, I don't know how, where we are in the space. I think we're in a space to do this. We need to relook at our stipends and see what we can do with that. Because we get paid a lot of money. We get paid a lot of money. And not a lot of people in my office know that. And yeah, so we need to relook at that. Money that can be used somewhere else sometimes. Space. There are many cultural, religious, tech, STEM, transfer, all clubs. A lot of them don't have space. A lot of them don't have an office, and they still get their shit done. And those are great ones.
Okay, what did
Before I forget, what I was going to say is, if anyone does have any resources at all for me to look into any of this, if anyone wants to join this little thing, that please don't make me like the head of it. We're all head of this. I can barely take anything right now, but please let me know, because we do this together, stronger together. But we need to get it done, because this, and Rocket is a great point too. We need to make sure that students want to do what they want to do. We need to outreach and see if this is something they want to do before we start initiating plans. So, little homework for everyone. Next meeting, when we have our announcements or something, can someone say I talked to so and so, and they thought of this, and we can all go around the table and go, thank you. But I think that would be awesome. So if everyone can do that, write it down, and then that would be great. And tell me if you want to join any type of community on this, and I would love to have you.
Thank you, Div. Something I wanted to say, because I think we're going to wrap up the discussion, was to really hold everyone at this table accountable, is to have council vote on an ad hoc committee at our next meeting to really establish that this is something that members of the council want to do, so they can really, have this something that is supported by the council. So that's something, Div, if you want to bring that up and put that as an action item for next week, an ad hoc committee. USAC reform or something to really formalize this process, because it seems like there's so much interest in sitting here listening to all the council members. And I want to take a moment to say thank you so much for really sharing all the different thoughts and feelings that people have about this. And I think it's so apt that you can relate it to, this election and the power dynamics that are going on here at the local level and across the country. And, we ultimately want to reflect the best. And that's something that I just want to say thank you for all of that. And lastly, I just want to say, as we close this discussion, just make sure, we don't forget, we're all here for, 6 more months. And I just hope people really think that, I think everyone up here is a good person. Everyone up here cares. Whether you're going to be sitting here doing all the good work that you do in your office, and coming here and sharing what you're doing and going out to different communities to try to improve the student experience. So please, in the process of this, always make sure you remember that everyone here, I hope, is something that you feel like you can work with and you can improve the conditions of different students on our campus together. We are one USAC, we are one student body, and I really think the more hands on deck, especially now more than ever, all hands on deck, we can really have more opportunity to create impactful, lasting, positive change for students on our campus for years to come. So with that, I want to say thank you very much. We'll go ahead and we'll close the discussion and we'll move into any announcements. So we'll start, an announcement?
Just to close up what you were saying before, I actually realized it's actually going on right now. There's a UC SoCal student government, USAC, we have going on right now. They're planning to have one at like different UC, so hopefully maybe we can have it here. That'd be a great place to just discuss different structures of different student governments around the UC, just to see what's effective, what's not effective, how can we kind of take what, what's worked and kind of implement it into what we're doing. Also, next week, or really it's next week, really soon, for our conference, we'll be meeting with a lot of leaders there, so just to see what they're doing in terms of like that, I guess. As for the announcements that I meant to make earlier, so first of all, okay, so this week, our office Gen 3 co-hosted Civil Awareness Week. We hosted a lot of mindful awareness activities throughout the week. I think it was Monday or Tuesday we had we'll take a break table where we ended up ACATs. We will messages on them about you're a great person, keep up the good work, stuff like that, just to get people's days, we also handed out some more educational links and dumbbells for that. I found this kind of ironic. Anyways, so that was pretty cool. We hope to be programming with them in the future with a lot of mindful awareness and meditation projects. We also have my mental health component is also having a photo campaign coming up either 9th or 10th week about different self-care, things you do for self-care, and it's kind of just to showcase like how you take care of yourself in times of stress, in times of anxiety, in times of just when you need to take care of yourself, which is always, right? So we're having a self-care Sunday that is sort of lead up to, where different students come and just we're thinking about either having a Zumba or just a dance teach-in where students come and learn how to dance, whether it's for exercise or just to let out some stress. Also, one of my directors is really into dancing, so he just wants to incorporate that in the program. So also coming up these next few weeks, we're doing a lot of outreach for Student High. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's a coalition of Humans Against Inequity, and we're working very closely with We're in close contact with Derek Bergman, who's the president of IFC. He really likes a lot of the ideas we're trying to incorporate. It's actually the reason we're trying to incorporate Greek life is because the coalition itself will be between different cultural orgs on campus, but just different communities that usually don't really interact. I'd love to incorporate the transfer community. I'd love to incorporate commuter students as well, who might not feel like coming into school. There's already all these different groups. But you'll hear a lot about it coming up. But basically, we met with the Vice Chancellor of Youth Relations, Kevin Doe, very recently. He loved the idea. He actually put us into contact with Bridge, which is the building respectable, inclusive, diverse, reach equitably, and SJ, which is social justice advocates. We all have a similar agenda, but kind of as a liaison for different Greek leaders on campus. If any of you are in Greek life here that would like to get involved, we're actually compiling a survey right now about how Greek life kind of perceives different campus climate issues, and just to see where they're at with a lot of social awareness. So once we kind of blend these communities together, there's no friction. People are already kind of trained on the kind of rhetoric that's appropriate and makes students feel safe. And by the advice of Kevin Doverty, he suggested that we incorporate different leaders from Greek life to kind of help us compile the training and
compile the surveys that all three of these organizations kind of feel is necessary, just to provide, a comfortable space for other students who might not be able to as comfortable integrating with pre-quest so quickly. So this quarter, we're hoping to hold focus groups at different fraternities and sororities to kind of not go in and say, we're here to educate you, but kind of go in and see where everyone is at in terms of their knowledge, and also, also get their side of what we really is to them, not just kind of make assumptions. So hopefully moving forward with that, we're working with the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, as well as Alliance for Group Dialogue to kind of hold weekly dialogue spaces about different issues. It's going to be a 8-week. That's basically it's going to be not just a speaker series, but a series of kind of trainings and classes about different issues, as well as holding discussions on how we can maintain the change between different communities. So, we're still getting updates from that, but if anyone wants to join in on that, we're doing a lot of work, and it's moving a lot faster than we hoped, but that's obviously that's good. And one small announcement, next week is our TGen, student of Martin Luther King Jr. is coming to kind of speak about the importance and how to hold the nonviolent movement in general, which I feel like is very relevant now because there's a lot of those going on. And hopefully see how we can make those effective going into the future, kind of how we can respond to certain events that happen domestically within our own campus space. So those are all the announcements I have.
Thank you. One note, I don't know if you're aware, when you're talking about Greek, there's 6 different, Greek councils, so all the different ones, I feel like that can add to make your effort more effective. Yeah, sure, so just on that. Thank you. Any additional announcements from the council? If
Okay, Meyerhoff Park, Maria Van Guzzi will get back to me on Monday. Today's, okay. I'll tell you all on Monday about the event on Tuesday, just an outside tea and tea and like bag making. They have reusable bags in general, and markers, so it'd be nice for people because the EPA might go down. So let's reuse bags, let's not use plastic. Also, announcement, which Sandra was here. We need to start USAC. We need to start telling ASUCLA and telling UCLA as a whole to invest more in compostable, reusable things more than ever, because the plastic cups in Kirkhoff Coffee House are not going to be able to be used anymore. You cannot use them. Please refrain from using them. Stop using plastic straws. Drink your things. Just let the ice hit your face. Do not get little salsa containers of salsa. I stopped that today. My taco was drenched in salsa that I give to right now. Make sure to do those things, those little steps. Slay. Transfer staff. Scholarships are going great. What else? Tech in the classroom. Let's talk about tech. We should have named it that. Me and Ashley, slay, we should do that. Me and Ashley and Jan Rife, our queen, has constructed a little forum of, we hope, 15. We'll see. We're gonna put the Google and the event up soon. We'll put it up tonight. So make sure if we don't get a good turnout, we're gonna be reaching out to some of your offices to see if someone wants to be a part of it. Because it's always good to get those opinions of what it's like to use technology, whether that's an online classroom or whether that is CCLE, and what we can do to make that system work for everyone. So yes, those are my answers.
Thank you. I just want to say, in the interest of really formalizing, I think in the future, you might want to have either Dave or any other council member to have an official officer report, because in the purposes of reporting for the Daily Bruin, when they list the officer reports, there'll be a way to really get what you're talking about more out to the community and really organize that more. And obviously, if you don't have something, you don't have anything to report today, but you might want to consider emailing Sabrina to have that there for the purposes of like publicity with the rest of the campus. Just putting that out there for you to think about.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lydia, for bringing the theme of plastics up. Oh, God, it's actually really infuriating because Sandra and I have been meeting with ASUCLA since the summer to try to get plastics out of Kirchhoff Coffee House. And not only that, but they refuse to move to compostable like items unless they install these customized compostable bins that they have to special order and take like 4 months to get here. It's absolutely ridiculous. So Wall is like the only place that has compostable stuff on campus. North Campus Student Center is supposedly going to be getting it by December, but the good news is that they finally did order bids for Kirchhoff this past week. But could be 3 months before anything changes. Go ahead.
We can use a little bit of student power to this. Let's get, and this is just like, whatever, I don't care. Let's get like compostable bags. Can someone, I got some money, we can get it. And we can just put them in places. I don't know if we can just take them against the wall or something. Patty, can you tell us if we can just place a compostable bag against the wall?
No, but you
Can we just?
reach out to Roy and coordinate getting, perhaps while we're in the meantime waiting for the bins to arrive, perhaps we can coordinate to get from facilities the actual compostable trash bins. Because we don't want to be.
They don't have to take this stuff out. They already have that. This is
In the conversation, can I just like,
Okay.
one last.
Yes, there are solutions, but.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
One quick last thing, I just want to say that that type of idea, the like bags, tape against the wall, those are the things we have to be doing. Like that is student power. That we're not saying that we're going to take them. But we need to do things.
So I'm saying we're also here to be an asset and a support.
Yeah.
And if we can find a solution that's more functional,
Yeah.
then we will work together.
Yeah.
But we need to be having these conversations and just being as loud as problematic or whatever we want to be, because those are the things that make these changes, and that's what will change our world that we live in.
Okay.
Thanks. Again.
Thank you. And I believe that concludes our announcements for tonight's council meeting. And if there's anything else, we'll conclude with the signing of the attendance sheet. So, Kevin, if you want to sort of pass that around the room again, we start cleaning up, and we'll adjourn council at 9:05. Can I entertain motions? Ashley?
I mean, to adjourn council and
Second by Zach. All those in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All those opposed? All those abstaining? 9:05. Council has been adjourned. Now we'll conclude with good welfare. If someone close USAC Live, close the laptop.